Hello everyone, welcome to another exciting Dragon Ball discussion. Yo, make sure that if you like this video, to like this video, favorite, comment, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. We have plenty of new content coming out all the time. Also make sure to ding, ring that bell so be notified whenever we do these live streams. We also have plenty of content, whether it be other Dragon Ball Super discussions, as well as college lifestyle vlogs, Scroll Girls gameplay, etc. One video that's really popular right now is Young Justice Season 3, new characters and character redesigns if you're interested in that. But without plugging myself any further, let's get into the meat of this discussion, the Hakai versus the Transfiguration beam. Both really powerful techniques used by rather powerful characters, but which is better? A very interesting question to be posed with, especially considering that the Transfiguration beam hasn't really been relevant since Dragon Ball Z, and the Hakai has been rather relevant in Dragon Ball Super. So let's take a look at both of these abilities and see why we would even compare them to one another in the first place. Let's start off by looking at the Hakai. The Hakai is a move that has been shown to be able to essentially completely erase things from existence with the flick of a wrist. It's rather powerful, and it can be used to get rid of extremely powerful opponents with the greatest of ease. Then we have the Transfiguration beam. This is being quoted from the Daizenshu, which can be found on the Kazenshu. This is quoted from Herms, if you guys are familiar with Herms in the Dragon Ball community. So it's a technique where he can change his opponent's form by firing a special beam from the tall antenna-like object on his head, well, tail-like antenna on his head. Since he transformed his opponent into anything he imagined in his mind, he mostly changes people into his beloved candy. The Transfiguration beam that Majin Buu uses is not something that simply turns individuals into candy. It can turn them into anything that Majin Buu imagines. One thing that makes the Hakai and the Transfiguration beam comparable is that while the Hakai erases beings from existence, the Transfiguration beam can be used to turn people into anything one imagines, and one could imagine empty space. Essentially, the beam could be used in order to turn someone into essentially nothing, just space, just like, not even like air, just like a void kind of thing. So while the Hakai straight up erases you from existence, the Transfiguration beam can be used to practically do the same thing, and really much more. You could even turn your opponent into a useful tool for yourself to use. However, it's been shown that with the Transfiguration beam, if you turn your opponent into an object that like still is physical and still has physical properties, then your opponent could use their power still in that form. This was shown when Vegeta was turned into a piece of chocolate candy and still was able to fight back against Buu. So if you use the Transfiguration beam specifically to turn your opponent into empty space, that would be rather powerful. If we look back at the Daisenshu again and look a little further, he's not limited to transforming just one person at a time, but can transform large numbers of people at once, like when he turns everyone in a large city into candy all at the same time. So this could be used to allow the Transfiguration beam to turn multiple individuals at once into empty space, essentially making a city completely empty in a matter of moments. Now, it's not like we haven't seen the Hakai do anything on this level, as we've seen Seadra Hakai an entire city, as this GIF shows, a rather powerful move. And the difference between Seadra Hakaiing an entire city and Buu turning an entire city into candy or empty space is that if Buu turned all the people in a city into empty space, then all the people would go away, but the city would still stay there. Whereas when Seadra Hakai's the whole city, not only do the people go, but so does the city. That being said, getting rid of an entire city, like even the structures themselves, seems to be something that can be done with a powerful enough ki blast anyways. A blast like this could probably destroy an entire city. You know what I mean? Like with characters who are already this strong, you could do that with just a normal blast anyways, and you don't need a Hakai to destroy it. That being said, the Hakai erases the city from existence, where a normal ki blast just like creates a bunch of rubble. Even if the ki blast like dematerializes everything, it probably wouldn't be as efficient as what we see here with Sidra's Hakai. Now, the Transfiguration Beam against weaker opponents, you don't really have to worry about when you transform them into some kind of item that they'll be able to fight back. And you could argue that Vegito, considering that Vegito is a Potara fusion, meaning that it's Goku's power level multiplied by Vegeta's power level, is what makes him so powerful, that really few beings would turn into something that is like still a threat for you. You know what I mean? Like if you turned your opponent into a sword and your opponent wasn't of a power level where it's like, oh man, by them being a sword, now I turn my opponent into a living weapon, you essentially could still turn your opponents into things of use rather than erasing them from existence. Maybe instead of erasing that city, Sidra, if they had the Transfiguration Beam instead of the Hakai, could have turned the city into a warrior to use in the Tournament of Power. Just a really powerful warrior that Sidra imagined. You know what I mean? And Sidra's universe was the first universe to go in the Tournament of Power. So when you think of it like that, Sidra's would have probably done better using the Transfiguration Beam to maybe transform the citizens of that city into powerful beings to use in the tournament. And all Sidra would have to do is just imagine these beings, and then the individuals who were rebelling against them would turn into essentially these soldiers for him. However, if you keep your will when you're changed by the Transfiguration Beam, as seen by Vegito being turned into a piece of candy but still being able to fight back, then that probably wouldn't work in Sidra's favor. However, what if you imagine them being subservient? You know what I mean? There's a difference between imagining someone as a piece of candy and transforming them into it versus imagining them as like a brainwashed like super soldier, because part of what you're imagining is them being subservient. So so far from what we've said, it seems like the Transfiguration Beam has a lot of utility to it. It can do more than just get rid of a person, because in reality it has to replace the person with what you imagine. And even if you imagine nothing, we could argue that you're imagining maybe empty space. So there's like a replacement process where the Hakai doesn't have one. Your opponent just kind of goes away. The Hakai is really good at what it does. It's like pure destruction, where this, if anything, is like recreation. So that's what we're arguing, like which is more powerful, being able to recreate things into what you imagine, or to completely erase things from existence, absolute destruction. Now, we've seen that the Hakai can have outs to it. For example, when Merge Zamasu in the Dragon Ball Super manga was getting Hakai'd, he had a way out of it by opening a portal and pulling Mai through. Through where Mai would be in the way of the Hakai, he was able to essentially get out of being erased or destroyed. This was a very powerful ploy for Zamasu to use, as it catches Goku off guard and allows Zamasu to escape in the end. The Transfiguration Beam could be dodged in a similar manner. You simply throw someone else in front of the beam. The Transfiguration Beam has actually been shown to be deflectable before. So if you were to shoot the beam at your opponent and then they deflect it, they could turn you into empty space. And then what do? So that's definitely a danger. But we act as if Frieza wasn't able to manipulate Hakai energy and be able to shoot a finger beam at Hakai energy, destroying a Hakai energy ball. That being said, Hakai energy versus the Hakai technique have been shown to be different things. Using the Hakai technique, one simply does the flick of the wrist technique, and their opponent is erased from existence, where Hakai energy, when bestowed to another being, seems to be the being throwing a key ball made up of Hakai energy that has to hit you to erase you from existence. So it's arguable to say that like the Hakai energy thing is something that's totally different, but for the sake of the argument, when talking about Hakai energy balls specifically, it's not like they're perfect either. You know, like you can blast the Hakai energy balls and they just kind of explode. You know, like he just kind of like gets past it. So neither of them are perfect when it comes to absolutely destroying your opponent. That being said, the Merge Zamasu case is kind of a shitty case to talk about in the first place because Merge Zamasu, I mean, he was already pretty erased, but the fact that he could regenerate is what allowed it to be so good. I mean, technically, if you did the Hakai in front of your opponent and your opponent didn't have to reach into a dimensional void, but just was fast enough to grab someone to put in their place, for example, trying to Hakai hit with this method, hit could grab someone else and put them in that place, and then they would be erased instead of hit kind of thing. So with increasingly faster and stronger opponents, you could see how the Hakai could be used and still like miss and hit someone else in the same way that the Transfiguration beam could be used and miss and hit someone else. So from an accuracy standpoint, I can't really say that one is really better than the other. Also, we've seen Frieza survive the Hakai, and that's pretty powerful. And also, we've seen Goku fight against the Hakai. Even though Goku was inside of the Hakai energy ball, and it seemed like he wasn't able to escape, he still wasn't completely destroyed. And we've seen Frieza tank a Hakai, actually, in the end, manipulating the energy for Frieza's own use. So this is where I say the Transfiguration beam really stands out as being better, due to being tankable versus not tankable. I personally don't believe that if an enemy was hit by the Transfiguration beam, that they could just straight up resist it. I don't think we've seen someone straight up resisted. If that is something that's happened, feel free to hit me up in the comment section below. And there's a difference between resist and deflect. Transfiguration beam has most definitely been shown to be able to be deflected, as we've seen Evil Boo deflect the Transfiguration beam back at Majin Buu, or Good Boo, in turning him into candy. So this can definitely be deflected, but tanked? Get out of here. Yeah, like I haven't seen, or at least I don't remember seeing anyone tank a Transfiguration beam and not be transformed by it. So when it comes to that, I could see the Transfiguration beam being much more powerful in that aspect, as it can turn an opponent into empty space, and if the opponent is hit, meaning that no one else is pushed in the way or the beam isn't deflected, then it'll get the job done. It'll do what you were trying to accomplish in the end. So I think when it comes to destroying like large areas, making sure that you not only get rid of the individual people there, but also everything, the location, the ground, you know, like the Hakai is a very fast and efficient way of doing so, where the Transfiguration beam isn't really about destroying or affecting locations and objects. It's more about affecting individual people, and it can turn them into empty space, because all Majin Buu has to do is imagine empty space, and then that's what they'll turn them into. Because remember, it's not the candy beam, it's the Transfiguration beam, and it transforms his opponents into what he imagines in his mind. So in the end, I'd say it's still rather indecisive, which is better. You know, we've listed a lot of points about the accuracy of the two moves, the utility of the two moves, how powerful the moves are, and the individuals who have used them. So I feel like we've lifted a lot of points of discussion. In the end, I still feel that the Transfiguration beam has more utility overall, but the Hakai is best at doing what it does, at erasing things from existence. What do you all think? I'd love to hear more from you in the comment section below. Make sure to comment. We really want to know what you think about these ideas that we've discussed so far. If you like this video, make sure to like this video, favorite, comment, and subscribe. Also ring that bell so you'll be notified whenever we do the live stream, and make sure to check out some of our other content. I'm sure you'll like it. Thank you once again, and have a wonderful day. This is your host, Jet Black, logging out.